When my father passed away, I was devastated. The news hit me with a force I had never felt before, crashing over me like relentless waves against a shore. He was everything to me, my guide, my protector, my continued source of wisdom in an unpredictable world. Losing him felt like losing a piece of my soul, a part of my very being that could never be replaced. The tears rolled down my cheeks, unchecked and unrelenting. I remember staring blankly at the ceiling of my childhood room, where posters of bands I once loved hung crookedly. My room felt so empty, the life that filled it stripped away too soon. After the funeral, after the inevitable condolences and hollow expressions of sympathy, I returned home. The family home felt foreign now, an echo of laughter and love that was now just memories swirling in the air like ghosts. I need to sort through this, I told myself as I stood in the living room, the coldness of the reality of loss settling in around me. My fingers trembled slightly as they brushed over the dusty boxes piled in the corner, boxes I had long ignored, thinking there would always be time to go through them later. Now later is here. Sifting through the boxes was a tedious process. They were filled with remnants of the past, childhood art projects wrapped in yellowed newspaper, photographs worn from years of handling, and old letters that crinkled with age. With every item I touched, memories flooded back, holidays spent together, camping trips that turned into hilarious disasters, quiet evenings filled with storytelling. But amidst the sentimental clutter, I was not prepared for what I would find next. My heart raced as I uncovered a folder wedged beneath a pile of dusty books. The familiar logo of the local bank was plastered across the top, and curiosity had me peering inside. My hands shook as I flipped through the bank statements, each page revealing access to accounts I never knew existed. What began as a simple search quickly turned surreal. Over $100,000, hidden accounts. What is this? I whispered to myself, the words a breath against the stillness of the room. I could barely comprehend the implications. It felt unreal, an elaborate trick played by fate. My memory flickered back to my mother, struggling against unpaid bills, her brow furrowed with worry that was etched deeply into her face. I recalled her gentle sighs as she sifted through envelopes covered in stamps and company logos that brought her nothing but dread. I am doing my best, she would say, her fingers trembling as she passed me bills that loomed large for a woman tired and defeated. The sight of my mother sad felt wrong. Somehow the world had shifted against its natural order. How could he do this to her, to us? I felt an unsettling heat rise in my chest as I thought of my brother, his carefree life which had always seemed untouched by the burdens that were constantly weighing me down. The thought of him pocketing everything while my mother struggled felt like a betrayal in the deepest sense. My heart sank lower in my chest, the weight of this new knowledge hanging heavy on my heart like a thunderstorm brewing inside me. Each pounding in my chest screamed questions. How could my father teach him to be selfish and blind to family suffering? Did he even care? The walls felt like they were closing in as I cradled the papers in my hands, their sharp edges digging into my palms, grounding me in the agony of realization. I took a deep breath, the air thick and heavy like the impending storm outside. It had started to rain, with droplets pattering lazily against the window, each one a reminder of the tears I had already shed. I could hear the distant rumble of thunder, nature's way of reflecting the turmoil swirling in my heart. I must confront this, I muttered, the weight of the world both a blessing and a curse carried within me. I will not let this go unanswered. Bounding down the hall, I made my way to my mother's bedroom, the door slightly ajar. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, her hands clasped like a fragile bouquet. My mother looked up, her eyes clouded with exhaustion and concern. "Amelia, dear, is everything all right?" she asked softly, the worry lining her voice striking at my heart. "No, it is not," I replied, my tone more forceful than intended. "I found something I can't ignore." Her brow furrowed more, a mixture of concern and curiosity. "I found the bank statements, I found the accounts." Her face paled, years of weariness painted across her features as understanding began to dawn on her. "Oh, Amelia, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't he tell you?" I interrupted, frustration bubbling over like a boiling pot. My heart raced, caught in a whirlwind. I was both desperate to seek the truth and terrified of what it meant. He had money tucked away, hidden from us, and I've seen you struggle. Why? Why would he do this to you? The silence that followed felt heavy, the kind that promised turbulent storms beyond the windows. My mother's hands trembled as she looked down at her lap. "Your father, he believed it was necessary. He thought he was protecting us, but..." Her words faltered, unsure of their footing. When she finally looked up, her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I had to keep up appearances. I thought it would be a passing phase." Keep up appearances? What were we, Mom? A family barely scraping by while your husband played king with his hidden troves? I shot back, feeling anger pulse through my veins. My heart ached for her, for us all. "This isn't protection, this is betrayal." She flinched, the agony of my words like blows against her spirit. "I had my reasons. I thought your father was going to sort it all out. I trusted him to manage our money. I believed he would help us," she admitted, the vulnerability in her tone breaking me just a bit more. "Help us by lying to us? Do you really believe that, Mom?" I questioned, my voice trembling with frustration. "He did this and you let him. You let him keep you in the dark, and now he is gone, leaving us with nothing but a cloak of lies and burden." The pain in her eyes broke my heart, twisting it like a knife in my chest. I was scared, she exclaimed softly, her vulnerability raw. Scared of what would happen if I confronted him about it, scared of losing everything, everything. We are losing everything already, do you even realize that? I felt the weight of my words pushing down like a heavy blanket, suffocating the air around us. My hands clenched the papers tighter, my fingers trembling as they sought to anchor within the chaos swirling in my heart. Echoes of distant raindrops outside seemed to match the turmoil of my emotions. There has to be something we can do. We cannot let this lie. We cannot let him win, I pressed, willing the urgency in my voice to reach her as the storm outside tormented the earth mercilessly. I don't know what you want me to say, she whispered, her voice breaking. Your father made these decisions for a reason. He thought he was protecting us or sheltering his greed. I shot back, feeling the frustration boil over as I saw the depths of complacency in her acceptance. I want to confront my brother. I want answers. I want us to put an end to this charade of a perfect family. My mother held her breath as if she were trapped beneath water, wistful for a way to float but afraid of drowning. He is family, she whispered, almost pleading. We cannot destroy what little we have left, Amelia. There it was, the final barrier, the anchor that threatened to pull her back into the depths of deceit. I refuse to stand by while he takes everything from us. This is wrong. I shot back, each syllable punctuating the resolve that surged through me. The truth was a heavy weight perched on my chest, an insistent fire burning, calling me to action. It was time to confront the reality of our family's lies and deceit. My heart still thudded heavily against my ribcage, but with each moment the storm brewing within me became clearer. I could not back down, not now, not when I finally understood the depth of this betrayal. I'm going to make sure he knows, I said with steady conviction. He will face what he has done. Our family deserves justice, Mom. As those final words left my lips, I walked out, determination coursing through my veins as if the storm raging outside had ignited a fire within me. The hour had come for confrontation, for truth. And with that, the first chapter of my revenge was about to unfold. I began piecing together the puzzle of my father's deceit, each revelation more shocking than the last. The more I dug, the more my father's betrayal cut deep. I remember the day vividly, sitting in my dimly lit bedroom, staring at the old family files spilling out from a cardboard box I had unearthed from the attic, the cardboard battered and yellowed with age. Dust motes danced lazily in the sunlight that filtered through the window, casting a warm glow on the stark reality before me. My fingers brushed against pages of vacation receipts, credit card statements, and photographs from luxurious trips I had no idea my brother had taken. There were records of lavish vacations my brother had taken while my mother toiled away, drowning in debt and despair. It was maddening to think of all those years when my brother strutted around with expensive gifts and new cars, all while my mother dealt with creditors knocking at our door. I could still hear the relentless ring of the phone, a sound I loathed, a harbinger of new threats and reminders of what we could not afford. Bills piled high on the kitchen counter with a might that mirrored my mother's rising anxiety, while my brother, blissfully ignorant or perhaps willfully blind, flaunted his newfound wealth like a badge of honor. I could never understand how he could act so effortlessly carefree while our family crumbled beneath the weight of greed and lies. The pieces fell together like a disturbing puzzle. Each receipt I found unveiled a darker truth. How could he? I muttered to myself, the words bitter on my tongue. I wanted to scream, to shake him awake and demand answers. But mostly I felt the gnawing pain of betrayal suffocating me with its intensity. It was a contradiction, the agony of knowing that someone who shared the same blood could be so callous, so indifferent to our mother's struggles. And so my torment came to a head at the dinner table. That predictable scene had become a stage for my brother's posturing. The dining room was filled with the scent of roasted chicken and garlic, but the food felt tasteless as my brother launched into yet another exaggerated tale of an extravagant purchase. You wouldn't believe the car I just got, a brand new sports model. It's electric blue and nearly cost me a fortune. The dealership practically rolled out the red carpet. It's a beauty. His eyes gleamed with excitement, and I felt my heart race, not from admiration but from simmering rage. Do you think we can even afford gas for our old sedan? I shot back, my voice more biting than I intended. I glanced at my mother, who had fallen silent, her fork hovering midair as she stared at her plate, a sad shadow of disappointment tracing her features. She had on her favorite cardigan, the one I used to think was colorful until I realized it was faded and worn out, much like her spirit. My brother ignored my jab, waving a dismissive hand. Oh, come on, Amelia, you've got to live a little. Life's too short to be frugal all the time. Look at me, I'm flying high. His smug smile only fueled the fire inside me, and I could feel the heat rush to my cheeks. You know, someone has to enjoy the good things in life. Not everyone can be bogged down by bills and responsibilities. Those words felt like daggers, twisting painfully in my chest. Was he really that insensitive? Some of us actually care about what happens to our family, unlike you. The anger surged within me, a wild current of emotion I struggled to contain. I can't stand watching you live in excess while our mother is drowning in debt. My words exploded from my mouth as if my tongue were a lit fuse, igniting the long smoldering anger I had buried deep. The The room fell silent. My brother's smirk faded and his mouth hung slightly open in disbelief. Wow, Amelia, talk about drama. I work hard for my money, unlike you. He rolled his eyes, but I saw the flicker of something, defensiveness, guilt. If mother is so concerned, she should just ask me for help instead of whining about it. Help. I almost laughed, the bitter taste of irony filling my mouth. You're the reason she's drowning in that sea of debt. You're the one who took what was meant for this family and used it to play rich on Instagram. Do you hear yourself? My voice trembled, each word a deliberate push against the wall he had built around himself. Act like you know me, Amelia. You're just jealous because you're stuck here while I'm living my best life, he shot back, the defensive posture signaling that I was inching closer to a breaking point for him. You really think you're living your best life? I leaned closer, my heart pounding in my chest. Tell me, how does it feel to know that you ruined our family's future for a few flashy days in the sun? Fear flashed across his face. Was it vulnerability or something else? A hint of disbelief twisted into anger. Don't know anything about my life. Just because you don't have it figured out, don't take it out on me. Take it out on you. I let out a dry laugh. You are so comfortable in your skin that you forget how many of us are out here suffering because of your choices. They're supposed to be our choices, our family's choices, but you took them all for yourself. At that moment, the tension in the room was thick enough to slice through. Our mother finally spoke up softly, her voice trembling. Both of you, please. Can we not do this here? Her eyes were pained, but I could sense the faintest flicker of strength behind her sorrow. We cannot allow this to tear us apart. It was the first time I had seen a shimmer of resolve in her. Our mother, who rarely dared to assert herself amid my brother's bravado, now seemed like a fragile bird finding its wings, ready to fight for something she had long sacrificed. I took a breath, feeling a strange sense of balance amidst the chaos. My desire to expose my brother's charade surged forward, a tidal wave of righteousness crashing within me. I won't allow you to hide behind her, not anymore, I declared. I have gathered everything, the receipts, the photos, the statements. I am going to show mother what you've kept from her. The corners of my brother's mouth turned downward, his arrogance dissolving into a grimace. You wouldn't dare, he hissed, the edges of his bravado crumbling. That's just low, your family, Amelia. You think that will help you? There was a challenge in his eyes, one I could not ignore. Maybe it is low, but it's what you deserve. You've been living a lie for too long, and if you think I'll stand idly by while you play the hands of a deceiver, you are dead wrong. Don't be so dramatic, he scoffed, but there was an edge of desperation in his voice. Mom will never believe you. You're just jealous that I have succeeded while you've buried yourself in work. I couldn't tell if I wanted to laugh or cry. Success. I questioned, my voice trembling. This isn't success, it's deceit. It's a betrayal that hurts more than I can describe. This isn't some contest to see who wears the crown. The air crackled with tension, and it felt like the storm was just beginning. The battle ensued as I remained steadfast, eyes locked with his. I saw flashes of anger, fear, and something deeper, a sense that perhaps I was stirring the cauldron of guilt he did not wish to face. So, what is your plan? He finally spat, the anger bubbling beneath his bravado. To call me out in front of everyone, to make sure everyone knows that I am the villain and you are the shining star. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure the truth is known. You can't keep lying, and I won't let you. My determination rumbled deep within me, fierce and unyielding. Our mother's voice trembled but sliced through our impasse. Stop this, both of you. I've known something wasn't right, but I chose to believe in this family, to believe in the illusions we created. Mom, you can't ignore it anymore, I urged, desperate to have her on my side. The truth won't vanish just because we avoid discussing it. It's there, written in every number and every unspoken thought. My brother's eyes flickered with uncertainty, and for a brief moment I saw the cracks in his mask. Could he sense it too, the reality of our family's demise lingering like a dark cloud that tainted every precious moment we had? The light outside, filtering through the kitchen window, began to dim as the sun slipped below the horizon, a poignant reminder that darkness was coming and we were standing on the edge of that abyss. What if you shared it together, he finally said quietly, almost pleading. His bravado had fizzled in the suffocating air, leaving him bare before us. You and I could convince Mom to at least give us a chance. Together, I questioned, skepticism coloring my tone. You mean you want to keep lying just with a happier face? I won't be a part of that. The intensity of the moment was overwhelming. I could hear my heart pounding as I contemplated the weight of our family's shattered facade and the truth I held tightly within my grasp, the breaking point of our relationships. In the silence that stretched between us, something shifted. My brother's posturing crumbled entirely, the mask of confidence slipping to reveal a haunted soul desperate for connection in the face of accountability. Listen, he started, his voice softer now, raw. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, I just wanted to escape. I thought maybe if I had this life, everything would be better for all of us. I wanted us to be proud. You didn't think at all, you only thought of yourself, I replied, feeling a surge of anger return. You made your choice, and now it is time for you to face the repercussions. As I left the dinner table, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders, conviction swirling in the air around me. The plush carpet under my feet felt like shards of glass, reminding me of the fragility of our situation, the trust that lay shattered. I wouldn't let my anger fade, nor would I allow him to disappear back into a life of lies. The evidence I had gathered was like a noose tightening around the truth, ready to expose the betrayal that had been festering for years. I gathered my resolve and the evidence I had meticulously tucked away. With each step away from the table and back to my room, I was fortified by the knowledge that this fight was only beginning. I would expose him. I would reclaim the narrative of our family from the clutches of deceit. I would show my brother that for once the truth would not be buried beneath the weight of living a lie. That night, as I lined up the papers before me, my heart raced with anticipation and dread, a bubbling mixture of emotions coursing through me. This was not just about revenge, it was about justice, about reclaiming the family that had been distorted by greed and lies. I, for one, was ready to face whatever came next. The time to unravel the lies had come, and I was prepared to confront the darkness that had loomed over us for too long. The day had finally arrived, a day I had anxiously awaited yet dreaded with every fiber of my being. The weight of dread was heavy in my chest, a physical manifestation of nerves that twisted and turned as I prepared myself for the confrontation that had been brewing for far too long. The air in my mother's house was thick with an odd mixture of festivity and tension that left me feeling like a tightly coiled spring, ready to snap at any moment. Glimmering lights decorated the dining area, casting soft reflections off the polished wood table, but I couldn't focus on those shimmering details. My heart raced, thumping loudly in my ears as I watched my brother across the room, regaling our family with wild stories of his latest extravagant getaway, laughter spilling from his lips like a waterfall, blissfully ignorant of the storm that was about to erupt. I could hardly hear his voice over the growing, thunderous pulse in my head, reminding me that today I would finally confront him about everything: the betrayals, the lies, the skeletons that seemed to rattle in the closet of our shared upbringing. Today would be the day I unleashed the truth I had pieced together through sleepless nights spent poring over documents and transactions that painted a picture too ugly to ignore any longer. With our mother seated at the head of the table, lovingly unaware, I took a deep breath, summoning what felt like every ounce of courage within me. I felt the sharp edges of the truth against my tongue, and it was time to let it out. "You have a lot of nerve, don't you?" I said, my voice even and steady, though the whirlwind inside me threatened to spiral out of control. My brother paused, his animated expression fading slightly as he turned to face me. "What do you mean?" He shrugged, a flicker of confusion darting across his face, but I saw the sheen of arrogance in his eyes as he leaned against his chair, arms crossed. "You want to talk about nerve, like flaunting your vacations while the rest of us deal with the fallout of your choices. The way you treat the truth like some game to win." I leaned in, every nerve in my body suddenly electrified as I retaliated against his contagious confidence with my own. "Let's talk about the truth then." The word hung in the air, heavy and foreboding, drawing everybody's attention like a moth to flame. The laughter dwindled, silence enveloping the room like a thick fog as my brother's mouth flickered into a frown. "What are you getting at, Amelia?" he asked, his bravado cracking just a little, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "You think your lavish lifestyle is free of consequences? You think our father is just going to keep allowing you to dance around his mess?" I took a small moment to take in my brother's reaction. Eyes wide and slightly narrowed, he looked at me as if I had grown two heads. It was a feeling I had been waiting for the moment he understood that I was not going to let him hide behind the facade of wealth and charm anymore. My heart thundered in my chest as I pressed forward, knowing I was holding the key to open the door that had long been locked. "I know about the hidden accounts, the shady transactions, the money that doesn't just grow on trees but is stolen from our family's honor." Collective gasps in the room hung in the heavy air, a palpable charge sending shivers up my spine. I watched as my mother's fork clattered to her plate, her hand flying to her mouth in disbelief. "Amelia, stop." My brother's voice was loud, desperate for control, but I could hear the tremor, the fear hidden beneath that bravado. "You are making things up, am I?" I said, closing the distance between us, each step feeling like it was solidifying my purpose. "You think I haven't seen the transactions? You think I wouldn't take the time to uncover the truth in all those numbers? You embellish your successes, but all the while your hands are dirty." My voice faltered for just a second, but I quickly regained my strength. "Do you think you deserve to waltz around here, spouting tales of your adventures, all while clutching onto stolen money?" The defensiveness on his face morphed into something darker, anger radiating off of him like heat waves. My mother finally broke her stunned silence, her voice trembling as she asked a question I knew she dreaded to pose. "What are you talking about?" There was a weight to her gaze, a combination of confusion and fear as she looked between us for clarity, but all I could focus on was the way her fingers began to tremble on the edge of the table. "It is not what it seems," he rushed out, his free hand trying to calm her down, but it only made things worse. "Amelia is just grasping at straws." I could see the color drain from her face, the unmistakable recognition dawning on her as if pieces were clicking together in her mind. "You are not trying to paint this as some unfortunate misunderstanding, are you?" I was relentless now, every word pouring out like a relentless waterfall, each drop eroding the fragile ground my brother stood upon. "You think I wanted to have this conversation? You think I wanted to tear apart this idealized version of family we've propped up?" But I can't stand quietly any longer, pretending everything is fine while our father's secrets dissect us from the inside. Silence hovered again, a heavy, muted weight that was punctured by my mother's sharp intake of breath. What was he involved in, Amelia? She whispered, wringing her hands nervously on her lap as her eyes darted back to my brother, looking for some signs of denial. Tell me the truth. The shame began to seep into my brother's facade, cracks spidering across the perfect mask he wore. It is not what you think, he repeated, but there was no confidence in his voice anymore, only a raw sense of panic spilling out as he fidgeted against the sturdy chair. From across the table, my mother's gaze was penetrating, an armor of love stripped bare, leaving the vulnerable heart vulnerable and raw. It's about the money that has been siphoned off from grand investments, isn't it? She pressed, tears pooling in her eyes. I know about those shadow accounts, the expensive yachts and holidays that have fueled that lifestyle, I continued, drawing strength from my mother's palpable fear. All funded by deception. My brother's cheeks flushed crimson, caught between the ripple of guilt and the urge to escape the tunnel he had created for himself. You wouldn't understand, Amelia, he spat, and there was a flicker of the old teasing arrogance I knew so well. You've always been the one to play the good child while I took risks, but you don't see the bigger picture. What bigger picture? Ruining everything our father built, blinding our mother to the realities of her own life. That isn't ambition, it's selfishness. I felt the room's energy shift like the winds of an approaching storm. My heart bore the weight of everything we were unearthing, and for the first time, amidst the chaos of emotions and revelations, I sensed a flicker of hope, a small, courageous heartbeat that asked if we could shine a light on the ashes of our father's betrayal. You think I am selfish? His voice shook, all bravado dissipating as he leaned in, eyes flaring with a desperate intensity. You don't know what it's like to be in my shoes, trapped under the weight of expectations. Found out that every choice I made felt like it was for Mom, for this family. For your family or for your swollen ego? I challenged, the fire rising inside me hot and insurmountable. My breath came heavy with emotion, thick in the charged air, each word an arrow aimed straight at his heart. As if I had struck a nerve, my brother's defenses crumbled and a flicker of recognition passed over his face. For a brief moment I glimpsed the boy I had once known, the brother who played by my side, the one who swore to shield us from our father's unyielding grasp. You do not have to carry this weight anymore, I heard myself saying now, vulnerability slipping out just like the truth. We can face this together. My plea hung between us, a line drawn in the sand, and my brother's expression shifted, the anger giving way to uncertainty and something more fragile, guilt. For too long we had been tethered by our father's mistakes, but in this moment I realized maybe, just maybe, there was a chance to reclaim our lives from the ashes of betrayal. I looked to my mother, her shock and disbelief multi-layered as tears began tripping down her cheeks, fragile as glass. I had never seen her break in this way. The walls we had built around our family began to tremble under the weight of our shared revelations. Mom, I said softly, moving toward her, ready to hold her trembling hands. You are not alone in this, we can work through it. She looked up, her eyes reflecting years of unspoken pain, her voice came out as a whisper. Is it true, what he has done? I nodded, feeling the weight of her heartbreak. It is okay to feel hurt, to feel betrayed by your son. Her nails dug into the soft fabric of her dress, gripping on for support. I never wanted any of this, my brother suddenly exclaimed, the tears pooling in his eyes finally spilling over onto his cheeks. I thought I could make things better for us. By tearing us apart, I blurted out, the rawness of my pain spilling out. You are going to have to take responsibility for your actions. The air thickened, as if the walls themselves were closing in to witness this family shattering. And yet, as my brother's sobs echoed within those walls, I found an unexpected sense of hope weaving through the chaos. With every word spoken, every truth unveiled, we were forging a new beginning, a chance to grow past the ruins and face what had been hidden for too long. Today was the day we would begin to reclaim our lives, and perhaps, despite the heavy toll it had taken to reach this point, there was a flicker of possibility in the depths of despair. It could be the dawn of a new chapter, ushered in under the weight of our collective truths. I stood at the edge of the dining room, my heart racing as I clutched the evidence tightly in my trembling hands. The paper felt like a heavy weight pressing into my palm, each crumple of it echoing the fragile state of the family bond I once cherished. My mother, with her eyes weary and worn, sat in a chair at the table, a glimpse of sorrow flickering across her face. My brother leaned against the wall, arms crossed defensively, his bravado hanging by a thread as I prepared to unravel the web of lies that had entangled our lives for so long. The air thickened with the palpable tension of unspoken truths, the atmosphere more charged than a thunderstorm brewing on the horizon. I could feel the lump in my throat swelling, but as I opened my mouth to speak, I forced myself to take a steadying breath. Mom, I need you to listen, I began, my voice quivering, the words initially tumbling out shaky but growing stronger as I fought through the trepidation. What I have here, it's proof of everything he did behind your back. I laid the papers on the table between us with a decisive thud, the sound seemingly amplifying with reverberations of years filled with deceit. My brother, who had been watching with an eyebrow raised, shifted his weight, the arrogance fading with every passing second. "What are you talking about, Amelia?" he shot back, but the bravado in his tone felt forced. "You're just making stuff up to stir drama. Can't you just accept the way things are?" "No," I proclaimed, my voice rising, resonating with the fire ignited within me. "You've been living in the shadow of our father's lies for too long. These documents show how he siphoned money from family funds to boost his own schemes. Do you have any idea how he chose his own selfish ambitions over our needs?" The anger bubbled beneath my skin, and I fought to channel it into clarity rather than chaos. With every detail I recounted, I began to weave a tapestry of betrayal. "Look here," I insisted, pointing to the first sheet. "In the past 5 years, he redirected over $20,000 into a secret account. $20,000 that should have gone to our education, our household, our well-being." The paper crinkled under my finger at the weight of those figures. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and pressed on. "This isn't just about money, it's about time he stole from us. Time we spent thinking everything was normal, thinking our father cared for us when all he did was care about himself." My brother's bravado cracked visibly. I could see him searching my face for reassurance, but all he found were the unwavering eyes of the daughter who had finally uncovered the facade. You're just being dramatic," he had his reasons. His voice, once strong and defiant, now faltered, almost pleading. "Reasons?" I demanded incredulously. "What reasons could possibly justify betraying your family? What reasons could excuse living a life of luxury while we struggled to pay bills?" I felt a rush of adrenaline surging, fueling my determination. On the edge of my vision, I caught the heartbreaking expression on my mother's face as realization began to dawn. She had buried herself under layers of denial for so long, allowing herself to believe in the mirage that everything was fine. My heart twisted at the sight of her fighting against the waves of pain crashing over her, but I knew she had to confront the truth. "Mom," I said gently, trying to keep my voice steady, "you deserve to know what he did to us." It was as though the room held its breath, moments stretching into eternity as I observed my mother's face slowly shifting from confusion to understanding. Her eyes grew wide, tears brimming as they glistened under the dim light of the chandelier hanging above us. "Amelia," she started, but I saw the weight of my words sink into her, soaking through the layers of betrayal she had been trying to shield herself from. "Please, Mom, don't defend him," I pressed, desperate for her voice to rise along with mine. "For once, see him for who he really was. You deserve to reclaim your strength." My brother slammed a hand down on the table, rattling the dishes. "This is insane. You are tearing apart our family for what? Some paperwork, some numbers. You're delusional, Amelia." The anger in his voice dripped with a mixture of fear and disbelief, shaking off the last remnants of his bravado as if trying to cloak himself in a false confidence. At that moment, I turned back to my mother, needing her to find her voice as I had found mine. "Mom, you have the right to be angry. You have the right to confront this." My voice softened, urgency simmering just below the surface. "You deserve every bit of clarity in this twisted tale." It was then I saw it, like the dawn breaking through a stormy night, a flicker of resolve igniting in her eyes. She swallowed hard, straightened in her chair, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she opened her mouth to speak with the kind of strength I had always known she possessed deep within her. "You need to listen to your sister," she said, her voice quivering but strong, filled with every ounce of hurt and heartache that had been pushed down for too long. "You don't get to defend your father anymore because I see now what he did to us, what he did to me." I could feel the fire between us, the tension sizzling in the air as my brother's face twisted in confusion and rage. He shot back, his tone incredulous, "But he was doing everything for us. How could you not see that?" "For who, Raymond?" She pressed, the edge of her voice ringing with clarity. "For himself. All of it was for himself. I stayed blind in love, thinking I had a partner in life. I was too busy fighting my own battles to realize I didn't just marry the man of my dreams, I married a monster." The brightness in her voice radiated around the room, illuminating the shadows cast by years of silence and subservience. I felt the pride swell within me, low and raw, as I witnessed my mother standing up for herself, uncaging the suppressed empowerment that had battled to rise through the years. "You need to leave," she commanded, her eyes fierce as they met my brother's. "I will not allow you to taint this home anymore with your lies." For a moment there was nothing but silence. The weight of what had been revealed hung in the air, thick and impenetrable. Raymond was at a loss, eyes darting between my mother and me, a mix of frustration and fear splashed across his face. "You can't be serious, Mom. You're just going to believe all of this." He took a step forward, his voice rising in desperation. "I am your son. You can't turn your back on me." "I can and I will," she replied, her voice steady despite the quiver of emotion that seeped through. There was a fierce intensity there, a woman reclaiming the pieces of herself that had been buried beneath rubble for too long. "You have shown me nothing but betrayal, and I no longer have the strength to tolerate it." In that moment, it felt like the very walls of our home could breathe again. The room hadn't felt this alive in years. The weight that had clung to us for so long was finally lifting, piece by piece, as if we were shoving aside the debris of a disaster, letting the sunshine pour in after a relentless storm. "You will regret this," Raymond spat, his face a mask of anger and disbelief, yet I didn't feel the familiar pang of fear that often accompanied his outbursts. Instead, a surge of relief washed over me. We were finally free. I watched as he stormed out of the room, muscles tense with fury. The door slammed behind him and the sound echoed like a thunderclap of finality. I turned back to my mother, my heart swelling with emotion, every shred of tension that had once filled the room dissipating like mist. Tears streamed down her face, but they were not tears of sorrow, they were tears of liberation. I ran to her side and enveloped her in my embrace, feeling her heart quicken as she grasped me tightly, both of us holding onto the moment as if it were the last ray of light before the darkness. "Thank you for standing up for us," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I thought I had lost myself, that I could never be the mother you deserve." "You were always there, Mom," I murmured, gazing into her eyes, reflecting the strength and beauty that had once been dimmed. "I never stopped believing in you." As we released one another, I felt a warmth within, an ember of hope. Today was not just about revenge, it was about reclaiming ourselves, our voices, and establishing a future that was ours alone. The decades of deception could no longer bind us. We had emerged from the ruins stronger and clearer than ever. And at that moment, a new chapter of our lives unfurled before us, rich with potential and possibility, the radiant dawn of a life no longer shadowed by the past. As my brother left, the weight in the room shifted. Finally, there was a sense of liberation in the air. The door clicked shut behind him, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. I could feel the last vestiges of tension lingering like an unwanted guest, but a deep exhale from my mother punctured the awkward silence like a balloon finally deflating. I turned to look at her, her face softly illuminated by the fading afternoon light streaming through the kitchen window, shadows dancing on the walls like ghosts of our past. "Can you believe it?" she whispered, her voice a fragile thread hanging between disbelief and hope. He actually thought he could walk away with everything. I reached across the small kitchen table, allowing my fingers to rest on her hand. I could feel the dampness of her skin, a mixture of tears and hard-fought relief. "He underestimated us, Mom. We are stronger than he thinks." The weight of our shared pain curled around my words, yet there was an undeniable buoyancy in that moment. "Look at us sitting here like this," she sighed, a quiver in her voice that hinted at vulnerability, but underneath it there was the strength of a person waking from a long, painful dream. "I thought we would never get here. All those years," she trailed off as if she were sifting through memories dusted with disappointment. "Remember when we used to bake cookies together?" I asked, trying to coax out a lighter memory. "You always insisted on adding a pinch of cinnamon, even when I thought it was weird." My mother chuckled softly, a sound like music to my ears. "And you would just stir and stir while I tried to explain how it made the flavors pop. Your cookies always turned out perfectly despite your fussing." "Ha, if they tasted half as good as you say they did, I am really something," I laughed, the levity brightening the air. The kitchen felt like a warm cocoon, cradling us in comfort as we cracked open the door to happier times. Sharing those stories began to knit together the frayed edges of our relationship that had been stretched by years of dysfunction and dishonesty. "What about the time we decorated the Christmas tree?" my mother continued, her eyes reflecting that faraway glimmer of joy. "You insisted on hanging all the ornaments in one spot, and I just let you, so you could feel pride in your design." "Yeah. And you told me that no one could hang ornaments wrong if they were hung with love," I recalled, feeling a fondness swell within me. "Indeed," she smiled, her eyes misty. "That was what really mattered in our lives, even when everything fell apart around us. Love, Amelia, that made us rich. And now as we take these steps forward," she paused, her gaze drifting out the window as if searching for the right words among the clouds scattered across the sky. "I want us to remember that we deserve to be happy." The air began to shift again, taking on a hopeful texture, filled with the twinkling promise of possibilities yet to come. "We have filed for financial independence," I said, thumping the table with my palm for emphasis, "and I want you to see that money is merely a tool. With it, we can rebuild, we can breathe free air, and we will never again be at the mercy of his whims. I want us to spread our wings, Mom, reclaiming our dignity." She mused, shaking her head in disbelief, as if that idea was both foreign and invigorating at once. "Amelia, how did we let it come to this? It feels like only yesterday we were just a regular family." "Family means more than just living together," I added, my heart swelling with the urgency of truth. "It means standing together, supporting one another. He failed us. He took and became more selfish than I ever thought possible." As the bitterness escaped my lips, I tasted the tears that had been threatening to spill from my eyes. This is our chance to rise above the ashes of his choices. The flickering warmth from the stove, an impatient cast iron frying pan still waiting to be turned off, began to hover in the air above us as we continued to breathe life into our new narrative. "You know," I said slowly, "it is easy to be swept up in his promise of wealth. Even those lies look so shiny. In the end, they meant nothing. They only served to pull us apart." "I thought I knew my son," she murmured, her brows furrowed, a shadow creeping back into her expression, but then she squared her shoulders and leaned closer to me. "But you have always been my heartbeat, Amelia. You have never failed to impress me to be better than I could have hoped for." "Mom," I could barely speak through the swell of emotion. "You gave me strength. You always told me I could be anything I wanted to be." She scoffed lightly, the corners of her mouth lifting in a faint smile. "And look where that's led us, tearing free from the clutches of greed. Your resolve shines brighter than any wealth he could have amassed. You did this for us. I am so proud of you." I did it with you, I corrected softly, squeezing her hand as I let the warmth of her presence flow into me. We learned how to stand on our own. We are becoming a new family together. The kitchen filled with a sweet aroma. My mother tried to bake us a celebratory pie earlier, before everything spiraled out of control with my brother's outburst. The scent swirled like a gentle breeze, inviting and nostalgic, and I almost felt like we were in a bubble beyond time, free from the past that had chained us down. Maybe we should finish that pie, I suggested, eyeing the half-prepared ingredients stacked haphazardly in a corner of the countertop. We could use some comfort food right now. With a sparkle returning to her eyes, she slowly nodded. I could use a little cinnamon and sugar to lift our spirits. We began rummaging through the cabinets, laughter bubbling up as we debated the best way to assemble a pie that was almost a forgotten dream. Maybe more cinnamon this time, just for good measure, I teased, shooting her a sly glance. Oh, definitely, she said, grinning back. Let's do it like we did before, but this time let's add our own twist, a little love, a little resolve. And maybe not so much salt. We both chuckled as I groaned, shaking my head at the memory of one particularly disastrous attempt at seasoning. We began to work side by side, gathering flour, sugar, and butter, pouring our energy into every fold and roll of dough we created. As I cut the apples, their crispness echoing in the kitchen, I could see my mother's hands steadying as she mixed ingredients with a kind of finesse that had always astounded me. See, we used to be good at this too. Back in those days when you thought you were the next top chef. Only because I had an amazing sous chef, I joked, and she laughed, but as we rolled out the dough, a profound realization washed over me. We were not just cooking a pie, we were crafting something new from the remnants of our past. Each piece of fruit, each sprinkle of sugar, we were reclaiming parts of ourselves, reasserting our right to be joyous. The act of making the pie became a metaphor for how we could piece together a better life, no matter how busted or broken the ingredients. Mom, I said, my heart flipping, this is more than just a pie, isn't it? We are making a mark on our future. Her eyes were bright, glimmering with understanding. Yes, my dear, we're building something beautiful, something that represents us. There's no price tag on that. Money may have divided us, but love and fortitude will unite us. As we slid the pie into the oven, I stood there, basking in the warmth between us that felt like sunshine breaking through a rain cloud. The future, I realized, was not a rigid construct dictated by fear or greed, but a canvas where we could paint our dreams without limitations. A shared journey illuminated by hope, happy moments we would create, fortified by the weight of our past but not trapped by it. I'm ready for this new beginning, Mom, I said, a confident declaration. No more chains, just us. She turned to me, her face a tapestry of resolve, and with that my heart soared. This kitchen, filled with the scents of cinnamon and apples, held the promise of tomorrow. We were finally free. The storm within had transformed into a simmering resolve, eager to face whatever lay ahead. We stood not just as mother and daughter, but as two indomitable souls, ready to reclaim our narrative and embrace a brighter future.